Thanks for coming back. I was telling Jen I wasn't sure if everybody would come back because I wasn't quite sure how last week went. So I'm very happy to see your faces willing to give it another go tonight. And I don't know about you, but I'm on pins and needles about the election. So I'm very happy to have this distraction because my husband is downstairs right now listening to a lot of commentators tell him how they might think it might turn out. It's like, no, I don't want to know until I know. So
I
we can
had
talk
no,
about tutoring until then.
I have had a no TV, no day, all day, either reading books, working outside.
Yeah.
I will turn nothing on.
And outside was the perfect place to be today. Holy cow, was that a
Wonderful.
beautiful day.
Gorgeous.
Yep.
Wow. I know. I couldn't quite believe it. I didn't go out until almost noon, and I was just stunned at how beautiful it was outside. So
It's gorgeous.
yeah, yeah. So come tonight and don't worry if you haven't had a chance to look through the binder. But I would still ask that at some point, use it like if you're having a hard time going to sleep at night, you can page through that. That'll get you relaxed, hopefully. There's a lot of information in there. And if you didn't hear me earlier, what did Arnold Schwarzenegger used to say? Hear me now, listen to me later, when he was Hans and Franz. That really dates me, doesn't it? But you can just kind of become familiar with the material that's in the binder so that someday when you have a question, that might be the first place to look. While we're waiting for the last people to jump on, unless Jen, is everybody here or not quite yet?
I think we might be ready to go. I know Jim was working the polls.
That's
Brian's
right.
taking care of his kids. Reed is working tonight. The only person I wasn't sure about was Nan and Victoria, so they might join, but I am recording this, so if they miss anything important, we can also share it with them.
Okay. So let's start out then tonight. Well, first, I just want to thank you again for coming. Does anybody have any questions after they did their reading?
And well, a lot of it was very self-explanatory, but the concept of acquired versus learned language, I'm not sure that I quite understand it. It means you have to speak lots and lots before you do the mechanics of reading and writing.
Right.
Correct?
Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up because that is a hard concept. Let me give you an example of learned language versus acquired language. So a number of years ago, a very nice young woman who was originally from India came into the program looking for some help with her English. And she had had years of schooling in India in English, with English lessons. So she was very good at reading and writing in English, but what she was not good at was conversation. So she had a lot of learned English, but she hadn't acquired that kind of ability to just speak in conversation, speak off the cup, speak spontaneously. So that's what she needed a lot of work in. Acquired language is basically when someone like moves to another country and they get immersed in the language, they're not getting lessons, structured lessons every day. They're just getting that immersion that we call it, where they pick it up a little bit at a time, fragments here, fragments there, then they practice that and so on. But it's not really a structured format for them. That's not always ideal either because some people really learn best if they have a structured framework. So what we try and do is try and encourage you to do a balance. Conversation is key to your students, just practicing conversation as much as you can, but also giving them that balance of the things that they can learn from the textbook, that you can help them learn from the textbook. So that's a long answer to your question, Sharon. I hope that helps just a little bit. what I wanted to emphasize from the reading was just kind of boils down to this. Nothing shuts down adult language learning more than a teacher who's a taskmaster or a perfectionist or too picky or too critical, or someone who doesn't give the student enough time to formulate a response. So just, just try and be relaxed, try and be positive, and let those silent spaces hang in the air a little bit. That's the part that you might have to get used to. It's, when we're having a conversation back and forth with people, it's usually very fast, the back and forth. But when you're having a conversation and you're trying to formulate your response in a foreign language, you just need those pauses before someone else jumps in to finish your sentence or to give you the word or whatever. So just allow for those, what we call pregnant pauses. However, if you see your students squirming and they really don't have a clue, then feel free to jump in, because you don't want them to feel awkward and just pressured in that way. And the other thing is, let them take lots of risks. Don't be too much of a perfectionist. Your student has to be willing to and free to feel like he or she can take a risk, to just kind of blurt out whatever they think might be the answer. I know when I study Spanish, that's one of the things I have to get over. I tend to just pause and wait until I think I can formulate a response perfectly. And that's a very bad way to study a language. Just allow them to just blurt it out. And then just remember that most of you are going to be tutoring your student 2, maybe 3 hours a week. That's 100 hours a year. That's like 2.5 weeks of a full-time job. That's not a lot of time. So your student isn't going to make tons of progress in 2 hours a week. It's going to take them years if they're starting out to get to the point in English where they really feel comfortable with it. And both of you have to just kind of understand that and accept it and be okay with that. And finally, remember, receptive language comes in first and easier than expressive or speaking. Okay, so listening, they can listen and understand a lot more than they can speak. And that's always going to be the way it is. So don't worry about that too much.
I have some questions about when it talked about teaching numbers. It said cardinal numbers to 50. I don't understand why just to 50 or even to 50, and the ordinal numbers to 30. Is that just arbitrary?
That's very arbitrary. I don't think I agree with that. Teach the numbers as they come up. I wouldn't spend hours and hours just teaching them in isolation, but they'll come up. But, every student is going to need some numbers for money,
Right.
for banking, some practical things like that. They're not going to need, high level algebra right away and things like that. But again, it really depends on what your student needs. So I think that's just arbitrary and I wouldn't worry about that. Good on you for picking up on that though, Sharon. You were really reading conscientiously.
Well, and I've got another question on the survival words. They're all here printed in small case letters and then all caps. When we write words to them, should we use all caps or?
Oh, good question. Yeah, that was just a glitch for the way those lists came into my possession, and we just didn't retype them. But no, you don't have to do that in all caps. I would advise all of you to print as much as you can instead of using cursive with your students, and to print it as simply as you can so it looks like the words on a printed page as much as possible. So don't get fancy. Don't have fancy script or anything like that. But if you can see the screen that I have up where it says welcome back to new tutor training, that kind of printing you know, and nobody's going to have perfect printing like that, but just have it very simple and straightforward. That's a really good question, Sharon. Thank you. Thanks for catching that stuff. I never even thought of that before. Okay, I think we're going to get started. I know we all want to end at 8:30 sharp. We have some videos to show you tonight of actual people doing actual tutoring. And most of the time, new tutors tell me that that's some of the most valuable time that they can spend at tutor training. If we don't have time for all of them, what I will ask Jen to do is send you those links and you can watch them at your leisure. But I'd like to show at least one of them tonight so we can talk about it a little bit afterwards too. So tonight we're going to talk a lot more about instructional materials and resources, strategies for teaching reading and writing. I'm going to try not to overwhelm you. Again, a lot of the stuff that I say is in the binder, so feel free to write some notes, but also understand that a lot of it is in the binder too. So the first thing I want to talk to you about are some of the curriculum materials we use. And again, I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to just hold this up here.
Ooh.
Okay, this is called the Oxford Picture Dictionary. I think it's coming out. It's coming in backwards, and I apologize for that. But
Not for me.
oh, okay. It must just be for me then.
Right.
But here's what it looks like in the inside. It's not really a dictionary in the classic sense, but Sharon, this answers your question about the
Wow.
pictures, okay? And the reason that I'm so keen on this particular book is that the pictures and the ideas and everything are organized by concept, okay? So there's pages in here on science concepts, biology, English composition. There's one page, 2-page spread called A Bad Day at Work. There's pages in here where there's parts of a car and traffic signs. So if you have a student who's studying for their driver's test, basic transportation, emergency procedures, the bank, city streets, medical care, pharmacies, garage sales, clothing, um, food, kitchens, all sorts of things. So it's an amazing resource. And tutors tell me, and I've learned this from my own experience too, that this book can provide some beautiful lessons. You might have a student, excuse me, who mentions something to you, and that might prod you into looking in this book to see a spread with a number of pictures on that topic. Now, it's really good to teach English and English words on a unified topic. If you can imagine your brain as a filing cabinet, and I was just doing some filing today. We had some old paperwork that we had to get organized for my sister-in-law. And so I could choose to take all of her papers and just stuff them in a filing cabinet. But it would be really hard for her to find those things if I didn't have them organized in a certain way. So if your brain is a filing cabinet, you can help your student organize their learning. You can kind of give them a file in their head for food and food names, and you can give them another file for family names, son, daughter, aunt, uncle, grandpa, baby, and so on. You can give them another file for job words and so on. So if you teach those things together at the same time, that really helps a lot. So that's one book. This book comes bilingually, so each picture can be labeled with English and another language. Unfortunately, we don't have them like that in every single language. Hmong in particular is a language that we don't have a bilingual dictionary for. If you have a student that doesn't have a language that the Literacy Council has a bilingual dictionary for, then we'll give you just the monolingual one, which has the English names on the bottom. Okay, so that's one thing that you might get if you are working with a student from another country who's learning English. And chances are you'll also get a ventures book. This is the ventures series, and this is for teaching students who are trying to learn English. This is the basic level. It comes basic, level 1. So the first level is actually called basic. The second level is called level 1. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I don't know. Level 2, 3, 4, and 4. So there are 5 levels, basic through level 4. There's a pretty big jump at the end between level 3 and 4 and between level 2 and 3. So sometimes if you are concerned about your student maybe not being quite ready for the next level, you can check with Jen, because there's kind of a bridge set of materials called Adventures that she could give you. So this book is really nice for tutors, especially people who don't have teaching background, because what they do in the book, and I don't know if you can see this online, but the white page is the student page that's in the student book, and the tan page on the next page is actually the teacher's directions. Now you'll notice in those teacher's directions that there are some directions that won't be appropriate for you, because this whole manual was set up to be taught in a classroom of adults who are learning English and not one-on-one. So what you do in that case is you just skip those activities. They're going to say, have your students practice with a group, do this, do that. But what you might have to do is just practice a little bit more, or review a little bit more, or go over those things. So the students are going to get 2 books. This is the first book that they get. It's just called the student book. And it's basically just all the pages that are in your teacher's manual without all the teacher's directions. So that's pretty straightforward. They get that to keep. The book sets have in the past been charged, the students have been charged $23 for the set. I'll have to bow to Jen on what that is now. And then this is the workbook. This comes with this book for each one of the students. This is extra practice. And this is very worksheet-like. If you remember what worksheets were like when you were a kid in school, there's fill in the blanks, there's little crossword puzzles, there's find the words, multiple choice, all of that stuff that you may remember from your school days. And it's all in black and white. That's for you to use or not at your discretion. If you have a student that wants some work to do in between your sessions, this would be a really good way to give them some homework or some work at home. Again, you don't have to use this. It's totally up to you. And then there is another series that we have just started using in the last couple years, and that's done by another group called Intercambio, and that series is called Confidence and Connections. So here's the difference. The Venture series, which I have right here, is pretty academic. It starts out nice and basic, and it can be used with a student who's just starting English. The Confidence and Connections book is a little bit more practical, and it's a little bit less academic, especially at the higher levels. When your student comes to you, they will have had an evaluation, and we'll talk about that on Thursday. And usually the books that you're to use will be given to you at that first meeting when you meet your student. So you don't have to worry about making this decision yourself. You don't know the student yet, and you really it would be hard pressed for you to make that decision. I wanted to show you both. I don't have the other books with me, the Confidence and Connections, but what's nice is that if you decide that you went through the whole, let's say, for example, you went through this whole level of basic and you didn't feel like your student was really quite ready for the next level of ventures, then you could ask Jen to maybe start in the other book for a while and just do a little bit more practice and a little bit more work to get that student ready for the next level. Both of these series have listening tracks. The older edition had CDs. The newer editions come with QR codes, and you can get an app on your phone for intercambio, but we can talk about that later too, how you would do that. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the curriculum materials?
I just want to make a note that there are worksheets from the Ventures collection in your binder. They're in the back pocket. So if you want sort of an idea of the, like a little bit of the format, that will give you an idea. You can also look up online if you want to see it before you get your own copy when you have your student. But I think the advantage is for if you're someone who's never taught before, it's really structured. So it's very easy for you to sort of ease your way into tutoring. And also, like, if you come up with your own lesson plans, by all means, use those as well. You don't have to follow anything that we give you, but, you know, it is helpful. So that's my note.
Thank you, Jen.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
When we get these materials, do we have to be careful about like writing in them? Do they get like turned in once we finish one set of books?
That's a really good question, Tabitha. Thanks for bringing that up. The teacher's manuals, the ones that have they're big and thick and heavy, and they have the spiral binder, those are over $40 a piece. So we would ask that you not write in those so that you can turn those back in and they can be used by other tutors when you're finished. The student books, those are given to the students. And this might be a good time to say too, the students are asked to pay for the books if they can afford it. If they are low-income people, we probably will know that because it would say on their application. And then we usually just ask them to make any kind of a donation or a payment based on what they can afford to pay. It's nice to have a student buy the book, even if they're only chipping in, you know, $3 or $5 from the $23 fee, just because people have a little bit more buy-in if they've bought in, you know, and they have a little bit of investment in the process. So they're a little bit more willing to just kind of keep it up. But Jen's colleague, Carol Myers, has always been really good about getting grants and so on for our book fund so that there is funding available for the students who can't afford it. Good question. Thanks, Tabitha. Okay. Then we want to go back to a little bit more awareness of some of the nuts and bolts of learning a language and what some of the pitfalls are for people who are just learning English. So grammar and pronunciation, if you've ever met anyone who speaks English with an accent, most of the time, people who speak English from another country will make some mistakes, some errors in their pronunciation or the way they accent something, or some errors in their grammar. But I always like to remind us that we make errors too in our grammar and our pronunciation. So it's part of the learning, you know, just like a little child who's learning English, as an adult learns English, their grammar will improve, their pronunciation will improve, and they'll have less errors and more understandability. So you should try and aim more for getting the message across. As far as hearing the difference, learners are going to have a hard time hearing and understanding the same things that you do. A Spanish speaker might have a difficult time understanding the difference between slip and sleep, or met and meet, or some of those things. It's usually the vowels that really hang people up right away. There's a section in your binder on grammar and pronunciation, and they talk about helping your student with an activity called minimal pairs. And that's basically what I was just repeating: nan and nen, or none and non, some of those things. If you emphasize those things for a student, they might start to learn to hear them. But it just takes practice and time and repetition and all of those good things. Then there's another area of speaking that we call stress. And it's not the kind of stress that everybody feels right now with this crazy election going on. It's the stress of an accent on a certain word. So if you look at these two sentences, even though the second sentence is approximately 30% longer than the first, the sentences, believe it or not, take the same amount of time to speak. That's because there are 5 stressed words in each sentence. Now, one of the problems with English is that there are words that are stressed and there are words that are unstressed. And your student is often not going to hear the unstressed words that people speak in a sentence. And that's okay. But when you speak to a beginning English student, it's really good to just kind of slow down enough so that they have a chance to see where the breaks in the words are. But make sure that you concentrate on pronouncing the stressed words, the important words in the sentence, most of all. Again, this is something that you should be aware of, but we don't want you to obsess about this because it's not a big deal and it will just kind of come with time. So a few more ideas on that. Make the beginning and the ending sounds of your words clearer. We have a tendency to sort of drop those endings when we're talking. We're gonna go to the store. I'm gonna do that shopping, things like that. But if you kind of emphasize the correct pronunciation, I'm going to go to the store, is a lot easier to understand than I'm gonna go to the store. And things like that. So just try and emphasize the beginning and the ending sounds a little bit. Again, help your students find the words that you're saying in a sentence. Sometimes it's just as good as having writing it down for them. And also remember that the way we pronounce words isn't always the way they're written on the page. For example, people in this part of the country often say family instead of family, shopping instead of shopping, things like that. They're very common. So just kind of be aware of your own speech and how intelligible that might sound to someone else. And then, of course, there are idioms. These are one of the most difficult things for people who are learning English to learn. There's a ton of them in our language. I just used one when I said there's a ton, okay? A heart of gold, learn something by heart, cost an arm and a leg. We use these things all the time and we're not even aware of them, but they can really, really, really trip up a person who's learning English for the first time from another culture. When my daughter was studying Spanish, she had an entire book on Spanish slang. And I mean, she just really studied that book. And then there's the other conundrum of the problem of each country that speaks Spanish has a different set of idioms for things. And English has a different set of idioms too. Then if you speak English and you're Australian, your word for stuffed will be completely different than an American's word for stuffed. From what I remember, the word stuffed means pregnant, if it's slang for pregnant in Australia, and it's certainly not that way here. So those are the things that can really trip up an English language speaker. If you go online sometime and want to have fun, just look up English idioms. There's pages and pages and pages of them. You don't need to learn those, you don't need to memorize those, but you do need to just kind of be aware of all the ways that this happens in what we do. So some of the tips, just to kind of summarize, and again, I'm throwing a lot of information at you, and it doesn't all have to stick. I think the most important things are to do more listening than you talk. And again, that means that sometimes you have to let those empty spaces stay out there and give your student a chance to talk and not try and fill in if you have that awkward silence. focus on functional communication, show more than you tell, use visuals and real stuff. Pictures are golden. We were talking to Sharon before we all started, and she was mentioning that you can find pictures on your phone, Google Images, any of those things like that. So, you know, for example, if you use the word highway and you don't have a picture of a highway and there isn't one in the dictionary, you can just Google Images and there will be one that probably comes up for you. That's amazingly, that's just an amazing thing. So lots of practice, lots of speaking opportunities, lots of review, lots and lots and lots of review. I can tell you that speaking another language is so difficult, and you know, 30 to 50 repetitions of some word before you own it. And even then, if you don't use it and keep reusing it, it's going to drop away and you're going to have to spend some time getting it back. And always try at the end of a lesson to just try and summarize in some way. So when your student's brain is trying to organize all this information in their mental filing cabinet, if you just go back at the end and say, wow, we talked about a lot of things tonight, or today when we were meeting, we talked about food words, we talked about words of things that you find in your house, or we talked about people and the different roles they can play. They can be your aunt, you know, your grandmother, your sister, all of those kinds of words. Just kind of try and summarize. That will help your student just kind of organize all that thinking and put it away for the next time. So now we're going to show you some videos, and I think you're going to enjoy these. They're not exactly perfect matches to what your experiences will be, but they will be, they'll give you some insights, I think, into how that's going to work. So I'm going to let Jen cue that up, and then after we're done with the first one, we can talk a little bit.
So you are about to see is a demonstration of an ESL meeting with a tutor and student. Your student's English level may be a lower level or a...
I just want to verify that everyone can hear the video.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you
It's
very
working
much.
well, Jen.
English. Your coordinator will distribute books for you to use with your student. Please make sure when scheduling next meeting with your student, you show the student a calendar to confirm the date, confirm the time, and exchange phone numbers with your student. Thank you and enjoy the video.
It's so nice to meet you. Today, I want you to relax. I want you to feel comfortable. So we're going to talk about who we are, and I'll tell you some things about me, and then you can tell me some things about you. Okay. First of all, I'm going to use these cards to show you some of the words I'm going to use when I talk about myself. All right? So you know that my name is Elaine. Yes. And I am your teacher. Yep. You come to school at the Literacy Council on Friday afternoon, all right, to see me, your teacher. Okay. I am a married woman. My husband's name is Paul. I have 2 children. My children's names are Justin and Rebecca. Justin is my son. Rebecca is my daughter. I like to teach English. I hope we will have a good time learning English. I hope so. All right. Lucy, would you like to please tell me a little bit about yourself? You can use some of these words in your introduction.
I'm married.
Okay.
And I have 2 children. Their names are Carlos and Alvaro.
Okay.
My husband's name is Alberto.
Okay.
He's a doctor.
Ah, he's a doctor.
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to learn English.
Okay, you want to learn English.
Yes.
Okay, so some of the things that we will talk about today. First of all, I said today is Friday. Do you know the days of the week?
Yes.
Okay, so if I say the name of a day, I would like you to say the next day.
Okay.
Today is Friday. Tomorrow is,
Tomorrow will be
okay,
Saturday.
Saturday. The next day will be Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
The following day will be,
Monday.
okay. And after Monday, we have Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
After Tuesday is
Wednesday.
Wednesday. And then I say Thursday, and we're back to the day we have class, which is
Friday.
Friday. Okay, so we've been through all the names of the days of the week. All right. Do you know what today's date is?
Today is 24. October 24.
October 24th, 2008.
Yes.
All right. So, you said that you want to learn English. So, that is your goal.
Yes.
But to learn English, why do you want to learn English? Why is English important to you?
To learn English is important to me because I'm living here. So I want to communicate with
Okay.
the people.
Okay, you want to talk
Yes.
to your neighbors, and your children go to school, correct?
Yes. And I would like to could review or check
Check
the
their homework.
Yes.
Okay. And how about talk to their teachers? Do you go
Yes.
do you go to meetings with their
Yeah.
teachers? Okay, good.
Yes.
All right.
That is important.
So it's important to learn how to talk with your teachers, the students' teachers, talk to your neighbors.
Yes.
Do you make appointments with the
Doc-
doctor, with
yes.
the dentist?
Yeah.
Okay. For your children and for yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And do you drive?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a lot of things that we can help you with. Perhaps we can talk about meetings with teachers. You can bring your concerns or things that are problems that you have to class. We can perhaps solve them here. If you have a question, do your children take music lessons?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a teacher for your students' music lessons?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you find that teacher?
Music. Teacher?
Did you have a friend who helped you?
Yes.
Okay. So when you meet your neighbors and your friends, they can also help you solve problems. I don't want this to be the only place that you speak English. I want you to find other friends and neighbors so that they can help you. It's very important that you listen and that you always have time to speak English or listen to English. Ways that you can do that are listening to your neighbors as they talk, listening to television in English. You can speak with your children because they're going to school and they're speaking English at school, so they can be a big help to you. You should be able to look at the newspaper, so you're using hearing and you're using sight. So you should be looking at words, and if you have a problem and you don't know what a word is, write it down, and then you can either look it up later in the dictionary, you can ask someone, but we should remember to constantly be talking and listening, okay?
Yeah.
So you try every chance you can. All right.
Well,
Okay. Now, one of the things I'd like to do is review some very basic English to see if we can understand how much you know about reading, writing, and speaking. Do you know the English alphabet?
Yes.
Okay. Could you say the letters for me clearly and slowly?
Okay. A, B, C, D, E, F, H, F, G,
G.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
And Z. Very good. Now, two letters that are very difficult for you, I'm sure,
Yeah.
are the letter B
Yeah,
and the letter V.
you're right.
And those are two letters that we will work on. But one of the things I would like you to do is to watch my lips as I form those letters. The letter B, as in boy, both your lips come together and it is B. B.
B.
Very good. With the letter V, as in the word very, you're going to put the lower lip against your teeth and go V. Very. V.
Very.
V. The letter V. Very, very good. I'm so pleased that you know those, the difference. You can hear the difference to those. All right. Now, I would like to work with you on spelling of words. Many times when we're on the telephone, we have difficulty understanding what non-English speaking people or native English speaking people are saying, or they have trouble hearing us, especially our names.
Yes.
So if you're talking on the phone with someone and someone says, "What is your name again?" I would like you to say your name and I would like you to spell it. For example, if someone asked me, "What is your name?" I'd say, "My name is Elaine." That's E-L-A-I-N-E. All right. So if we're having a telephone conversation, I say, "Good afternoon. What's your name, please?"
My name is Lucila.
And how do you spell that?
Lucila.
Very good, Lucila. Okay. All right, now I understand, Lucila. And if that's just an example of a time that we might have to spell things, but in order to make sure that we understand the rhythm and the letters, let's see if you can spell the second word. I will spell the first.
Okay.
How do you spell chair? C-H-A-I-R. Okay, Lucy, how do you spell table?
T-A-B-L-E.
Okay, T-A-B-L-E. I spell the next word desk, D-E-S-K. Could you please spell pencil?
Yes. P-E-N-C-I-L.
Can you spell table?
Yes. T-A-B-L-E.
Yes, that's correct. T-A-B-L-E, table. I will spell desk. D-E-S-K, desk. Could you please spell pencil?
Yes. P-E-N-C-I-L.
Okay, good. And I will spell board. B-O-A-R-D, board. The last word is homework. Lucy, can you please spell homework?
Yeah. H-O-M-E-W-O-R-K.
Homework. Very good. That's very good. All right. Now we talked today when you first came to class, and we did greetings. And I said good afternoon because it's the time of day, and it's our first meeting. So oftentimes when we meet people for the first time, we say, "Hello, how are you?" I would like to go over this greeting I will read it, you will listen, and then we'll try to read it again, and you can be one of the people.
Okay.
All right, Denise. Hello, Rick. How are you? Rick. Fine, thank you. Elena. Good morning. Denise. Oh, hi, Elena. Elena, this is Rick. Rick. Hello, Elena. It's nice to meet you. Elena. Nice to meet you too. Rick. Well, we're late for class. We have to go. Goodbye. Elena. See you later. All right. Now, looking at the picture, this is Denise, this is Rick, and this is Elena. How about if you read all of the ones that say Denise?
You'll Denise or me?
You'll be Denise,
Okay.
okay?
Hello, Rick. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Elena. Good morning.
Oh, hi, Elena. Elena, this is Rick.
Hello, Elena. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Well, we're late for class. We have to go. Goodbye. And you can read the last line.
See you later.
See you later. Okay. All right. So now we know a little bit about greetings. All right. Now, some of the things that are very difficult for most people to learn is the verb to be. We know that the words are I am, you are, let's see if I can find these, you are, here they are, he, she, and it is, okay? We are, and they are, okay. Now, do you know what a contraction is? A contraction is when we shorten the two words for I am to I'm. You are to your. He is to he's. She is to she's. It is to its. We are to we're. They are to their. Okay? Now, here are some sentences, and I'm going to use the proper pronoun, which is I, you, he, she, or it, we, you, or they. And I'm going to ask you to tell me whether you use the word am, is, or are. Are. And I'd like
What's happening? Uh-oh.
Carol, would you like me to continue to the next video?
I can't hear you, Jen.
Oh, do you want me to move to the next video?
No, not quite yet, but thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I just said there's a little bit more to that video, but it gets a little long and I didn't want to take up a lot of time with this. But if you want to watch it again, Jen can probably send you those clips and you can go through the whole video. The tutor is a skilled tutor. I think I just wanted you to see kind of how she was doing that. That doesn't have to be how you would by any means have to do it. She does a good job using cards like that, flashcards, and the Literacy Council has blank cards for you to use. those are very nice. You know, you can use 5 or 10 cards at a lesson, and you can teach the student things like contractions. By the way, that's at least an intermediate student. That's not a beginning student. But then you can send those cards home with the student so that he or she can practice at home. Did anybody have any questions about that?
I was impressed by how well the lesson was planned. She knew exactly what she was doing in each next step.
Yeah, that's true. And I think most of our students really appreciate a good solid plan, you know, and that doesn't mean you could spend maybe a half an hour or an hour even in the beginning stages planning a lesson, and you get there and something comes up that you just want to talk to your student about, or your student wants to talk to you about, and the lesson gets kind of pushed aside, and that's okay too. But those structured lessons like that with a really clear plan are golden. So planning is a really important part of tutoring. Okay, now the next video is the one that I think is just probably the most charming and the most special one of all. The student and the tutor are just wonderful, but they're showing you a way that you can use pictures in an unusual but very practical way. And Jen, I would say maybe we could use about 5 to 7 minutes of this video, and then you can stop it. Okay.
This learner does the family shopping and cooking. She needs to know the names of commonly purchased food items in English. She also wants to learn some new recipes.
Hakima, I understand that you do the shopping for your family.
Yes.
And what I was thinking is that we might want to look at the food ads to see which types of food you would buy, so that when you go to the store,
yes,
you'll be able to ask for what you need.
Yeah.
So I brought some papers from our local newspaper, and they show the different foods that they sell in the store, and then I thought we would make some cards.
Yes.
So you would learn the names of the different foods that you buy.
Yes, yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good. Let's look at the foods. We're going to cut out some pictures, paste them on the cards, and put the names on the back so that you know which ones you're buying, and you can take the cards with you to the store.
I'll go to the Dominic's.
Dominic's?
Yes.
Okay. You want to do the Dominic's ad?
Yes, I'll do the Dominic's. Dominic's looks really good.
Okay, she likes Dominic's food. That's good. I like Dominic's too. Okay, let's find some foods that you buy. These are lettuces.
Yes. Yes.
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Yes. This is tomatoes.
How about grapes?
The grapes.
Okay. Onions.
Onions.
Peaches.
Peaches.
Eggs.
Eggs.
Okay. Okay. Let's cut some of these out. Okay. Tomato.
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 Okay. And this is T-O to M-A, May, T-O-E-S.
Yes.
More than one tomato. Tomatoes.
T-O-M-A-T-O-E-S.
Very good.
Tomato.
Tomatoes.
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 Very good. Very good.
Tomatoes.
So
Yeah.
it's
Two.
T-O
Two.
May, M, A, Very good. Toe, tea. May, toe. Tea. Tea. Toe. O, right? Very good. Toes. Yes. More than one. Yes. And if it's helpful, you can write that in your language. Is it helpful to write it in your language so you know what it is? Very good. Very good. R-O-M-A-N. Roman. Tomatoes, my language, Roman. Very good. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So it's tomatoes. Tomatoes. Very good. Very good, Hakima. One more? Yes. Okay, let's see. Do you cook with lettuce? Do you use salads? Yeah, we have done salad. Okay. We have 5. Let's go over them again. Okay. This one is broccoli. Yeah, broccoli. Broccoli. Yeah. Eggs. Lettuce. Lettuce. Very good. Very good. Tomatoes. Okay. If I show you the picture, can you tell me what the name is? Yes. Okay. Eggs. Yeah. Very good. Very good. How about this one? Tomatoes.
Carol, do you feel like that was a good enough sampling of that video?
Sorry, I had my headphones off there for a minute.
Okay. Did you think that was sufficient for the video, or would you like to
Yeah.
add some more?
Yeah. I think this might be another one that I think would be a really good one to review, but the way that tutor handled the student and the way she repeats things, there's a lot of good things in that particular video. So after you get going with your student, this might be a really good video to watch from start to finish. Here's the other thing. Until you start with a student, you don't really know what you want to learn further. So I think you'll have a better idea of how to learn from that video after you start with your own student too. Okay, I think I'd like to save that last video and see if we have time later. But I'd like to go on because I'm just checking the time and I want to make sure we have time for another thing that I think is really important.
Sounds good. You can screen share again, so.
Yeah, okay. Oh. Okay. So now for some reason I can't seem to advance the, Okay, Jen, are you able to advance the, okay. For some reason I can't seem to advance the PowerPoint. Okay, do you want to advance to the next slide? Okay, here we go. Thank you. So we want to talk now about some more practical things that you can think about when you're tutoring. The first one is listening skills. And when your student comes in, if he or she can speak any English at all, it's really nice to just have a conversation. And one of the things that you could do is just something that we call reflective listening. So if your student tries to tell you something, what you would want to do is just to reflect back and say, oh, so if your student is saying, today I had to pick up my son from school, the teacher called and he was sick. If the student is telling you the story, you can just say, oh, you went to your child's school and picked up your student. So you just kind of respond back to that, and you encourage them and then kind of summarize. Those are all really good ways to make sure that your student understands that he or she is being understood. That's very reinforcing for them. Okay, now I guess I'm able to advance them. Okay, so one of my absolute favorite all-time tutoring strategies is this thing called language experience approach. This is a golden approach. There's so many different levels of students that this is really good for. It's multi-level just by the way it is. It teaches reading and writing and language, reading, writing, speaking, and listening all at once. It promotes conversation. It's just kind of an all-time great approach. So one of the things that we're going to recommend to you when you have a student is to keep a notebook, and there are notebooks that the Literacy Council had donated, so you'll each get one. And in that notebook, you can do things like do this language experience approach and then send this home with your students so that they can practice it at home. So what you basically do, and we're going to show you a video of this too, is you model telling a story. And you can pick anything that you want. In the video, the tutor picks a story about her family. That's always a good one. You can talk about where you live or your hometown. If you have pictures or a picture that helps you tell the story, that's really good. So you tell the student a little bit of a story about yourself. And then the next thing is you ask the student to tell you a story about where they live or where they came from or their family based on the model that you gave them. So then you record the learner's story, 3 or 4 or 5 sentences in their notebook, and it's really important that you use their grammar, and we'll explain a little bit more about that, and the video does too. Then after you've recorded your student's story, you've written it down for them in the notebook, you read the story out loud to your learner, then you read it together. So it's I do, we do, and then you have the student read it, they do, okay? So after that, you ask the learner to select maybe some meaningful words that they want to learn. You write those words on those cards, ubiquitous cards. You teach each selected word, and then you reread the story together. You give the learner the copy of the story and the words, and then you send that home with him or her, and then the next time you come, you review that story again. So this sounds kind of weird, but if you see the video, this will all make sense. So that's what we'll do next. And Jen, you can show this one in its entirety.
As learners develop basic listening and speaking skills in English, they will be ready to begin work on reading and writing. Teachers quickly learn the advantages of linking reading and writing activities to the oral activities the learners will be doing in class. The language experience approach is an excellent way to do this. Let's see how it works in a one-to-one situation as Rhodey and Luchner talk about families.
Today, we're going to talk about families.
Okay.
Your family and my family.
Okay.
I brought a picture. Would you like to see it?
Yes.
All right. This is my family.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is me. And this is my husband. These are my sons. This is Charles, Ted, Frank, Bob, John, Joe, and David.
They are nice.
You like them?
Yeah.
And these are my daughters. This is Anne, Mary, and Rose.
How old are they?
How old are they? The oldest is 38, and the youngest is 21. And the boys are the brothers of Anne, Mary, and Rose. They are the sisters of the boys.
Good.
How many are in my family?
No, my family is 5.
In your family, there are 5.
Yes.
Would you like to tell me about your family?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to put the names down. All right. There are 5.
Yeah.
All right.
My old sister, her name Tififi.
Okay. Sister. Okay. Is what is her name?
Tififi. Yes.
Okay. So there are 5 of you.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to write a story about one of your brothers or sisters. Who would you like to write about? Do Fifi?
Anyone.
You choose.
Fifi.
All right. You want to write about Fifi? All right. And so we're going to start by saying, Do Fifi is my sister. Now, I want you to tell me about Fifi. Tell me all about her, but go slowly, because I'm going to write down everything you say. Okay? Tell me about her.
My sister, she is beautiful.
All right. She's your sister, right?
She's my sister.
All right. Go on.
She left Haiti 7 years ago.
She lived or she left?
Left.
Okay. She left Haiti. Okay. Where does she live?
She lives in Guadeloupe.
In where?
Guadeloupe.
Guadeloupe?
Yeah.
Is she married?
No. She had boyfriend.
She had
boyfriend. And she had 1 son.
Do you think she'll get married?
I think she will be married.
All right. This is a good story, isn't it?
Thank you.
All right. Now, here is your story that we've written all about Fifi.
Yes.
Would you like to read it?
Sure.
All right. I'll read it first, and then you read it.
Okay.
Fifi is my sister. Would you read that, please?
Fifi is my sister.
Good. My sister, she is beautiful. You read.
My sister, she is beautiful.
Beautiful, good. She left Haiti 7 years ago.
She left Haiti 7 years ago.
She lived in Guadeloupe.
She lived in Guadeloupe.
She had boyfriend and she had 1 son.
She have boyfriend and she have 1 son.
Good. I think she will marry.
I think she will marry.
Good. I know you can read that one by yourself. You try it all alone. All right.
Fifi is my sister. My sister, she is beautiful. She left Haiti 7 years ago. She lives in Guadeloupe. She have boyfriend and she have one son. I think she will marry.
Perfect. Perfect. You've done very well with that.
Language experience stories are an excellent way to link listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The teacher can also be sure that the learner will only be asked to read words that are already in his speaking vocabulary. And perhaps most important, the teacher is demonstrating her respect for the learner's ideas and experiences by incorporating them as an important part of the lesson. The learner is not reading materials that may have little relevance to his own life. He is reading his own story.
That's one of the reasons I write down the story exactly as the learner says it. His grammar may not be perfect, but he will have a better chance of being able to read his story because the words are his, not mine. His grammar will improve with time and experience, and the stories will be there to be concrete evidence of the progress he has made.
Teachers and learners can also use the completed stories to work on many different skills, depending on the learner's needs. For example, they might work on sequencing by putting each word of a sentence on a separate piece of paper and then having the learner put the words in the correct order. Or they might work on vocabulary by discussing words that mean the opposite of those the learner used in the story. Words such as beautiful and ugly, is and isn't, and left and came. They could also use the story to work on basic phonics skills. In this case, Rhodey and Luchner focus on the letter S and S as an initial consonant sound.
This letter here, this letter and this word here, what's the name of this letter? S.
Sister.
Just the name
S.
of this S. All right. And the sound for this letter is S.
Sister.
S. Just for this letter here. S. Okay. And say S. All right. Now, find another word in the story that begins with the same sound. S. Find another word.
She.
Okay. She actually is a different sound. Listen. Shh. Because it always goes with that letter. Shh. The sound I want is
single.
All right, we'll find one in the story.
In this here? I can't see.
Well, there are a couple others.
Son.
Good. Good. All right. What's the name of the letter?
S.
What's the sound?
Son. Son.
Yeah, like a snake makes that sound.
Teachers can also use language experience stories to help learners increase the number of words they can read by sight.
I have two words here that I think are good for you to know to read.
Yes.
The first word is beautiful. Please read.
Beautiful.
Good. Find the word beautiful in the story.
Yes.
Good. Good. Here's another word. Left.
Left.
Good. Find this one in the story. All right, that's good. Now, what other words in the story would you like to be able to read?
Live.
Live, all right. Let's go over these words again.
Beautiful. Left. live, think.
Think. Good. Now I'm going to mix them up. Okay? All right? And I want you to read them to me, please.
Give it to you?
Yeah, you read to me.
Live.
Good. Okay.
And think.
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 Think. Think.
Think.
Good. Good.
And left.
Okay.
And beautiful.
Beautiful. Well, your work is beautiful. Good work. That's excellent.
Okay.
Okay. Let's do the screen share again. Okay, so first I should have warned you that this video is quite old, and you'll see that the hairstyles of the lady Rhodey were kind of dates it a little bit, but the strategy is still really a good one, and it really is a good approach. It's kind of multi-leveled. You can use this with a beginning student. You could use it with an advanced student. And what's really nice about it is that if you put it in a notebook, you have a nice record of kind of a student's progress and a group of stories that's almost like a little textbook for them to do too. So in your binder, section 4 has a lot of ideas for ways to teach grammar, pronunciation, help your English learner get used to speaking English. And then the language experience approach is explained in detail in section 5. So the last thing that we want to explain to you this evening is there is some pages in the back of your binder that Jen referenced earlier in the evening. There's a copy of a student book page from Ventures, and then the teacher's manual page that goes with that. And what we would like you to do is use those pages and see if you can find another person, hopefully a family member or a close friend, that you can actually practice with. Practice teaching the lesson, using the questions on the page, looking at the teacher's manual and seeing if you can just kind of figure it out, what parts of that teacher's manual page might be confusing to you. Bring those questions on Thursday. And then see if you can figure out which lesson is a higher level lesson and which is a lower level material. And what was the hardest part for you? And please bring all of those questions to the next session. The last session we're going to talk about the real nuts and bolts of tutoring, and we'll talk about where to tutor, we'll talk about virtual tutoring, we'll talk about setting up a lesson plan, how the whole process works from how you got to be involved in this process. You filled out an application and then signed up for virtual training and so on. The students have a process too. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what to do if you have some bumps in the road as you're tutoring. We'll kind of cover some of that. And so I think we'll also talk a little bit about some of the adults that occasionally come into the Literacy Council and just need help with their reading. So that's it for tonight. Do any of you have any questions before we call it a night?
Just one more session?
Just one more session, right, on Thursday night. Yep.
Ready to go? Whoa.
I had one question, maybe I'll address this Thursday. Do you guys have a waiting list of people that are looking for tutors, or with everything going on with COVID, it's kind of been more quiet?
We definitely have a waiting list.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
Do we get choice? I mean, do you say someone who's just needs reading proficiency versus someone who doesn't speak the language at all versus someone who's been here 6 to 8 months?
I think probably what the Literacy Council usually does is when, okay, to back up a little bit, in the past when people signed up for tutoring, one of the big bugaboos was where that person lived and where the tutor lived and when they could be available for tutoring. Okay, and when your schedule allowed you as a tutor to be available for tutoring. So now with a virtual component, that's a little bit less of a situation, but Jen's going to be looking at when you're available and when the student is available. Many of our students are still working. They're working in factories and service industry and things like that. So they'll still have pretty busy schedules. And I'm sure some of you are working as well. So you'll have to get matched up first of all on that. And then there's another glitch too, which is just pandemic related, which is which students are willing and able to do virtual tutoring and which students are only able to do in-person tutoring. In-person tutoring right now is a little problematic because of the pandemic. So there's a lot of factors. And what usually happened in the past is when we finally, as a Literacy Council, found a student that worked, that we thought would be a good match for you in particular, whoever you are. Usually an email was sent to you just kind of describing the student a little bit, you know, what level they were, what their needs were, and then we would just say, are you interested? And then you have a chance to say yes or no.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
See you Thursday.
Thank you so much. I know it's a long slog for an hour and a half of this, but thank you so much for your attention and we'll see you on Thursday.